Real estate is the only get rich for sure. It's not a get rich quick, but it's a get rich for sure. As long as you don't.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rocket Your Dollar. And I'm really happy to be joined today by a guy with a great name. His name is Henry Washington. But so we share that in common. But one of the things we don't share in common, and this is why we have Henry Washington on here, is that Henry is one of the nation's leading real estate investors. And he has a business where he actually teaches people how to be real estate investors. And I wanted him to come on here, share his story, because, of course, many of you in the Rocket Dollar community are real estate investors. But without further ado, let Henry Washington tell us where you're from and how you got started.
Yeah, I got started. I live here in Northwest Arkansas. That's where I got started investing. 2017 is when I first got started, and I found myself researching at 3 in the morning ways to make extra money because I got married and realized I didn't have enough money to live the lifestyle I felt that
Sure.
my wife and I wanted to be able to live.
And
And
you had a job. So the thing is
I
that you
had a
had a
job.
job, but you're just like, you still wanted to do better. That was the thing.
Yeah, man, I had a good job. I made a decent salary, but I didn't. No one taught me financial education. I was taught go to college, get a degree, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder. Right, all of those things will
Sure.
come with making money, but like fiscal responsibility, how to budget, and all those things never really was taught. Just kind of had to figure it out as I went. And as a single male, making a good salary, I spent more than I made. And when I
Sure.
got married, I quickly realized that those poor financial decisions were now not just impacting me, but they were impacting my wife and our ability to do things like buy our first home together and hindering what I thought was going to be, kind of a not necessarily an easy life, but a life I felt like I've done all the right things to afford. So I couldn't afford things like just spontaneously going on a vacation or, just even buying vehicles. Like it was all so much harder than I thought because I hadn't financially planned. And then now I'm sitting here married, trying to have conversations about how we're going to afford a dream house or vacations. And I didn't really have the answers. And that all led me to a panic attack at 3 in the morning about not being able to afford this new life that I found myself in. That
Sure.
led to research about real estate and something about investing in real estate clicked for me. It made sense. It didn't make logical sense. I mean, I didn't have much money. I didn't have great
Sure.
credit,
Yeah.
but so buying a house to solve that problem seems a little wild, but it all like the how of it made sense to me. It gave me a sense of comfort. And so I decided at 3 in the morning that I was going to figure out how to be a successful real estate investor, even though I didn't really think I had any of the things to be able to do that at the time. I also didn't realize how powerful that decision was at the time. But I made that decision. I woke up in the morning, told my wife, hey, we're going to be real estate investors. And her grandfather owned properties. So she was like, oh, yeah, my family's done that in the past. We should totally look into it. Ended up buying Rich Dad Poor Dad or borrowing Rich Dad Poor Dad from a friend
Okay.
and reading through it because I had never read it. And then my whole brain exploded. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, here we go. Here we go. And so
Okay.
it took 90 days after I had that panic attack, I ended up buying my first property. So I spent that 90 days just like living, breathing, eating, sleeping real estate. So I was podcast, books, like anything I could,
Yeah.
studying how to become a real estate investor, and ended up with my first. Really, honestly, my first lead became my first deal.
Okay. Now, it sounds like we know that specific moment or time
Yeah,
at 3 a.m. in 2017, but
yeah.
were there like any specific, was it just you consuming all sorts of content around real estate investing, or were there like an early mentor,
No, no
or like
mentor.
a show, for example, just that kind of set you
No,
on your path?
no mentor. Here's what I did. It's kind of the way I just approach anything. I didn't know how to do it, but I knew that people around me somewhere did. So my plan was, yes, consume as much content as I can, podcasts, books. And I focused my reading and learning on one specific thing, which was finding deals. As I
Okay.
started to go to, sorry, let me backtrack. So the thing I was most focused on was like, if I can just get around other people who are doing it, I'll start to learn how they're doing it, right? Like, I'm a visual learner. I'm a people person. Like, relationships are important to me. And so, my number one thing I wanted to do was get in the room with other investors. So, like, one of the first thing I did was just I found every local real estate meetup that it was in my area, and I went to every meeting religiously. If they met during work hours, I would go during work hours, like take the time, like I would schedule it in, make sure my boss knew, like I was going to, like I
Okay.
had to be in the room, because that's like I just learned better like that. I want to build relationships. I want to talk to people. I want to see what they're doing, understand what they're doing, right? And there's a ton of power in that. Like we all think things are hard until the people around us are doing it, and then we realize, oh, it's not that hard, right? So if you can just get proximity to the thing that you're trying to learn, it won't be as overwhelming to you. Proximity was important to me. So like I went to, dude, I was going to 6 or 7 meetups a month, like just
Oh,
religiously,
wow.
because my local RIA had 3 meetings a month on 3 different topics. And then there were other random RIA groups that would meet, and I would just go to everything. Um,
Wow.
and so I was going to meetups, learning what people, and I learned a ton. You learn what people are buying, you learn why they're buying it, you learn how they're buying it, you learn what they're doing to it, you learn how they're monetizing it. Like just being in the room, and I would purposefully look for the people who were doing the deals. Like I wanted to go talk to the people who were doing the deals. And like real estate investors who are doing deals they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you what they're buying, how, why. Like they real estate investors love talking about their deals. So I learned a
Okay.
ton just going to meetups. So that was my original plan. Yes, I read books, but what I learned at the meetups is every time I go to a meetup, everybody would stand up when it was like time to introduce themselves. They would say, "Hey, I'm so and so. I do X, Y, and Z, and I'm looking for deals." Like everybody was looking for deals. No one had any deals. So I was like, all right, if I can figure out how to find deals and like be the person that has access to deals, then A, I'll be able to add value to all these people who have experience because I'll have something that they want. And B, I'll have a way to make money because they probably will pay for the deals. So what I studied in the books and the podcasts was around finding deals. So I listened to a lot of books and podcasts about wholesaling. Not because I wanted to be a wholesaler, like I didn't want to wholesale, but
Mhm.
wholesalers are professional deal finders. And so I said, I just want to study the people who find deals like that's their job. And so that I can implement some of those strategies and be able to find these deals so that when I go to these meetups, I can be the person with the deals because apparently nobody has any.
I see. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You might be the only person, first person we've had that kind of talks about that side of the real estate. I mean, obviously, where I focus is usually the how do you get the capital for those
Yeah.
particular deals. But my first interactions with you on social media, just kind of learning about your stuff, was actually messaging you because you can message you and kind of get the deal calculator. So at
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
your handle at D Henry Washington. So I did that, and I live in Austin, Texas. So then what I realized is that none of the deals are making sense. Like so,
Yeah,
if anything,
yeah,
it kind of
correct.
showed me that okay, I might need to go find some of these podcasts and real estate people who teach you how to invest remotely because apparently Austin,
Yeah,
Texas is not a good particular area at this moment. So maybe I'm
yeah. Not
uh,
for cash flow, but you can probably
not for
flip.
cash flow. No,
Yeah,
for other things maybe, but it didn't work. But
yeah,
now I'm going to ask you because I know the answer to these questions, and you're
yeah,
probably too modest to talk about it. But when you were talking about the specifics, when you were saying that, hey, you didn't have the capital. I mean, I think I remember seeing a video of you before that like you had a specific number of what you had. That you're like, I had this much money, and this is where I
mhm,
started. And then I'd
yeah,
love for you to kind of tell the audience like where you're at now. Like, what is the Henry Washington's business and portfolio? Just
yeah,
because it's an awesome number, and I don't think you just
yeah,
offer it unless I asked you to brag a little bit on yourself.
yeah. When I first got started, so during this whole time that I'd been talking about, I had about $1,000 in my savings account. That's all I had saved up.
Yeah.
So I didn't have cash to do a real estate deal. Um, but not every deal requires cash to purchase. So I was just going to keep looking. So I had about $1,000 in my savings account, and I didn't have great credit either. I had a sub 600 credit score. So during this 90-day period of when I was researching, I was also actively working on fixing my credit. Uh, uh, but no, I didn't have a ton of cash. And so, but I didn't want to let that stop me. I know people do deals with little to none of their own money all the time based on the research I was seeing. And so, and in my opinion, like I didn't know what my first deal was going to be. Maybe I sell that deal to somebody else and make a little bit of cash. Maybe I
Yeah.
can take it down. Like I didn't, I think people put the cart before the horse too much with real estate deals as they make all these decisions about what they can or can't do without even having a deal to know if that's the reality of the situation. So in my mind, I was just going to keep researching and keep looking, and then once I got a deal on the hook, then I'll do what that deal in my financial situation will allow for me to do. If that deal in my financial situation says I need to sell it to somebody else, I will. Or if that deal in my financial situation allows me the opportunity to buy it, I will. So I ended up getting a lead on on a house that my buddy owned, and he was selling it to me. Essentially, he was selling it to me for $116,000, and it was worth about 175,000 dollars.
Wow.
He had to get rid of it in 30 days. And so he was like, dude, if you can close in 30 days, you can buy it for 116. Can you buy it? And I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. Right. I had no idea how to buy it. I literally had to Google how do I buy a house in order to purchase that property, which had told me I needed to sign a purchase and sale agreement. So I downloaded one off the internet and we signed this contract I downloaded off the internet, which is terrible, terrible legal advice. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of where my mindset was at the time. Like I wanted to get this deal done because it was such a good deal. I literally had no idea how to do it. I didn't know. I knew I needed money, right? I had $1,000. So if I'm paying 116 and I have 1,000, that means I need $115,000 to buy this house, and I need it in less than 30 days. So after he and I signed this contract, I didn't know what else to do other than to go to a bank because banks give loans for homes. And so I went to the bank that was closest to my office and walked in with the contract in my hand and asked to speak to a loan officer about getting a loan to buy this house on this contract that I had.
Sure.
And the bank happened to be a commercial bank. That wasn't like a decision a point I made. It just was.
Right.
And the guy I ended up talking to, he was a commercial loan officer. I didn't know that that's who I was talking to. I just was looking for a loan officer. And so he took me in his office. He pulled up the address on his computer. He looked at the contract and he was like, man, I think this house is worth a whole lot more than what you're paying for it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's why I want to buy it. And then he talked me through the commercial loan process. He was like, look, we could give you a loan for purchase. So we'd give you 85% of the purchase price and we'd give you 100% of the money you need to renovate it. So you won't have to come up with any money to fix it up, but you'll have to come up with a 15% down payment. And he was like, do you have the down payment? And I was like, yes. Right. Like I didn't have it, but I wasn't going to tell him that because in my brain, I was like, I'm going to go figure it out because I was excited because I walked into the bank needing $115,000 and I walked out needing to only come up with now like 15 or 16 grand. Right. So in my mind, like I'm almost done. Right. Like,
Right.
I'm almost done. I just got a little bit left. So, so from there, I was able to leverage that network of investors that I had been building relationships with by going to all these meetups. And I just started asking all the successful investors, like, hey, I got to come up with, 15 grand in 30 days. How are you guys coming up with these down payments? And one of them just literally brainstormed with me all these ways. None of them were going to make sense until he came up with the idea of borrowing from a 401k. I didn't know you could borrow from a 401k at the time, but he kind of talked me through it at a high level, and I ended up doing that process, borrowed from my wife's 401k, and we bought that first rental property.
Oh, well, and that's the space obviously we're in, kind of adjacent. I didn't even know that. I just kind of
Yeah.
asked that. Now, so What's it like now? Like, what is your day to day? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, you've talked
yeah,
about this publicly, so I'm not asking any
yeah,
questions,
yeah.
but you
No,
got
yeah.
quite the portfolio and quite the specialization.
Yeah,
Or
we've got to, today we've got about 100, just under 100 rental properties, and I flip anywhere between 15 to 20 houses a year. So we do some pretty good volume. But yeah, it all started with that very first deal that I walked into a bank with a contract for.
you still friends with your buddy? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
all
absolutely.
those
We
names.
own a couple properties together.
So I mean, so obviously, whatever situation your buddy was in at that time wasn't great, but it sounds like things have worked out just by association. And that was one of the other things, and just kind of
Yeah,
shifting here that, kind of leading you in this direction. But I thought that one of the really neat things that you always talk about is that you being a real estate investor actually is helpful to the economy you operate in. Like, in other words,
yeah,
you actually have the statistic of you
yeah,
investing in real estate actually creates jobs and enhances the economy in your
yeah.
Northwest Arkansas area.
You're gonna get me on my high horse, Henry. Oh man. Look, uh, I just have this theory, Henry, and like for example, like when I was researching real estate investing, I didn't have money, I had bad credit, but somehow the idea of purchasing property just made sense to me. It like in actual sense, it doesn't make sense. Like you don't have any money, you
Yeah,
have
right.
bad credit, you shouldn't buy houses, right? But
Right.
like the idea of it all just gave me some sort of peace or comfort. And every time I talk to investors, especially new investors, I'm like, man, how many of you just feel like you've got this feeling in the pit of your stomach? Like you're supposed to do this. You don't know why, you don't know how, it doesn't even make sense, but you feel like this is the path you're supposed to go down. And I feel like a lot of people are felt that way. And what I've learned as a real estate investor, as a business person, is that real estate is the only get rich for sure. It's not a get rich quick, but it's a get rich for sure. As long as you don't quit, as long as you don't quit or you're not forced out, right? If the market shifts and you're in bad positions in your property and you're forced to sell, or if you bought bad deals and you're forced to sell, but as long as you can hang in there
Hmm.
and as long as you're owning property or continue to buy property that you own, at some point you will have amassed some sort of wealth. Like that's powerful, right? And the lesson I've learned with wealth, through all the people I've seen that have been wealthy, that are in my circle, or that have had wealth and lost wealth in my circle, the lesson I've learned is that wealth isn't for us. None of this is for us. Like I didn't learn how to invest in real estate so that I, Henry, could be wealthy. I felt like I was led down this path so that I could learn how to build wealth, so that I could use the wealth that I build to be a blessing to other people, to be a blessing to my community, to be a blessing to my family. I get to reap the benefits of the wealth while I have it, but the purpose of the wealth isn't for me. And the best part about real estate investing, in my opinion, is that you get to build wealth while you prop up your community. I feel like there's a feeling that's placed in the pit of our stomach for us to do this because there are people depending on us who we don't even know, who we haven't
Yeah.
even met. And the statistic you're talking about, Henry, is that when one real estate investor decides to do one real estate deal, there are 60 people on average who make money for their business or their small business because you decided to do a real estate deal. 60 people, 60 businesses get to pay their mortgages, feed their families, keep the lights on because you brought them business, because you decided to act on that feeling in the pit of your stomach and do just one real estate deal. I mean, we got title companies, contractors, subcontractors, escrow companies, companies like your company, right? Like there's 60 businesses, realtors, assistants, so many people get to generate income from one real estate deal. We are improving the economy. And that's why I feel like sometimes people feel like I feel like I'm supposed to do this, but I don't know why. And I feel like that's that tap on the shoulder that's saying, "Hey, man, there are people depending on you. You may not ever even meet them, but there are people
Right.
depending on you to do what you're being called to do. So go do it."
I love that part, and that kind of leads me into this is you've done a lot of giving back. I mean, you have this massive portfolio. You're doing a dozen to 2 dozen flips regularly. Uh, but you also, we were talking about this too, and I'm based in Texas. I'm in Austin area, you're Northwest Arkansas, but you have an event coming up, a live event. I know
Yeah,
you do sort of different types of coaching, but you have a live event that's in the Dallas, Texas area coming up
yeah,
June 26, 27. So
yeah,
what are your attendees, the people going to learn from you
yeah.
that particular conference?
Yeah, I often said I was never going to do a conference, but if I was going to do one, I wasn't going to do one like everybody else does. And so, like, I have the privilege of getting to speak at conferences all over the country.
Yeah.
And often what I see happens at conferences is people, speakers are there and they stand on a stage and they talk at you, right? They tell you what you should be doing and why you should be doing it. But no one tells you or shows you how to do any of it. So you leave and you're excited and you're motivated about investing in real estate, but you were excited and motivated before you got to the conference. Now you're leaving, you've got a little less money in your pocket, but you don't still don't know how. And
Right.
so I said, I'm only going to do a conference if I can show people how to do the work while they're at the conference. And so uh, I've manifested that into this conference, June 26th and 27th in Dallas, Texas. I'm hosting my first, I'm calling it an unconference
Yeah, I
because
guess to be fair, it's the
yeah,
unconference. Like I
yes,
refer to it as a conference, but,
yeah,
but specifically you go out of your way to call it
yeah.
the unconference. But
Yeah, because the goal is to show people how to do the work at the conference. And so the way that I've designed it to work is that every speaker who's on stage isn't really on a stage. They're in the crowd at the tables with the people in the room, and they have to host a workshop with real examples, with real deals. So you have to show people how to do the work at the conference. And so the people that are there will actually be sitting down with the speakers, working through actual examples. So you actually leave with action completed, with work done. So you don't have to worry about, am I just paying for a bunch of fluff or filler? Or are people going to tell me all these things I already know? No, they're actually going to show you how they're doing this work. And so every single speaker led session is a workshop where you
yeah,
do the work at the conference. And I'm pretty passionate about it.
I love that. And my team and I were working on our workshop, which will be
Yes.
showing people how we'll go with two angles. So just to kind of
Yeah.
give people a little bit of a teaser here that we'll work on the angle of how they could access their own money that they might have accumulated. Because a lot of people in our audience, they're like they kept their job. I mean, one of the things is that you have over 100 properties now, but you actually kept that job that you had for quite a while
I kept
while
it
you're
for a long
doing real
time.
estate. So you were, I don't know if you were working 32 hours a day in there for a couple of
Yeah.
years, but or
I was
whatnot.
working a lot. Yeah, I would have kept my job longer if it would have made sense to. But
Yeah.
I think keeping your job is can be very powerful. But yeah, absolutely, man. I kept my job until I had about 60 some odd rentals.
Oh, wow. And then,
Yeah,
so that's what our workshop will be. It will be how to tap into maybe some of the money that you have, but maybe
yeah,
also, like you said, you might be able to put together capital for deals by introducing this concept and getting four
yeah.
people to invest in your deal. And you might be able to remove the bank entirely, for example, because you
That's
got
cool.
four
Yeah,
people accessing $50,000 in their IRA. You got 200,000. So that would cover your costs of the property. Now you just have these four investors and you
that's
for
awesome.
example. And we also set it up with your team to, and we'll put it in the show notes, but if they use the code Rocket10, then they'll get 10% off of the registration for the conference, June 26, 27 in Dallas. But we definitely want to do that. And I just like the idea that you're going to be there and you want to get into the nitty gritty, because I think the last time I saw you speak on stage, your
Yeah,
presentation really got into the here's how to look at a deal. And then I
yeah,
think you even asked the audience at the end a little bit of an action item, which might be that just go in and talk to a bank and kind of learn if you might have access to capital. And that was a credit
yeah,
line one. And I was going to let you know
yeah,
that I did that. You left the audience by telling them to go in and just see if they your existing
yeah,
bank will just offer you a line of credit just based
yeah,
on your relationship with them, even if it's a personal one. And I did that,
yeah.
and they I haven't executed on it, but they offered me $100,000 in credit lines.
What? That's nuts. Heck
So
yeah.
So, I mean, banks are like, we're not lending money as much. And they said, but if you
Yeah.
need this, we could do it. We could do it unsecured. You have an LLC account with us. Money's come in for the couple of rental properties. I'm nowhere near, the Henry Washington or Bigger Pockets.
That's cool. Yes,
You are,
sir.
but yeah, they just said that if you wanted or needed $100,000, it wasn't tied to my house. It was just
It's just an
100,000 just by
unsecured line of
asking.
credit. That might be
Yeah.
the biggest unsecured line of credit I've heard somebody get access to so far. That's awesome, man.
Well, I've been with the bank for a while. It's a small
Yeah.
bank, credit union. It's a big credit union for this town, but compared to the big banks, not big. And
Yeah.
they just want more market share. And I guess they figure if I'm asking, I'm just going to go away from them and go to a big bank.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what they said.
cool, man. I
I
told
didn't.
you, man. I
Yeah,
tell people this all the time, man. If you've got a
yeah,
relationship, you may as
that's right.
well ask.
Yeah, I had a relationship. I definitely, have sent people over to that bank before, but
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely worked. And I love that actionable part. But you know, the but we will definitely tell people I'm going to be there at the conference doing a couple of the workshops from that angle I just talked about. And also, if anyone listening just is inspired by Henry's story, we have a lot of real estate investors, Henry. But
Yeah.
they if they're with us, then they've probably tapped into IRAs or 401ks to go do
Yeah.
property. It's typically not their first. And if they really want to keep scaling, they'll have to go and maybe do some of the tactics that you teach and coach
Sure.
on. But if people happen to open an account, we created a code just again, I wanted to use the name Henry 150. So it'd be $150 off of sign up for a Rocket Dollar IRA. And I don't think I've had a chance to tell you, but our overall company, we custody about $11.5 billion in private and alternative investments, and roughly $4 billion is in real estate in some way, shape, or form.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
amazing. Yeah.
properties outright or someone doing a passive syndication. And we're not even counting people who access the money in the form of private credit to then lend to a real estate investor,
Yeah.
flipper, and so forth. So that's not even considered real estate for us. But if I had to posture a guess, that's probably another several $100 million, because that's a big
Yeah.
field. And that's the one where I went to my local real estate, networking group and told them that there are a lot of people, they don't want to get involved in the real estate themselves, but they love the idea of being able to fund someone to do real estate. And these are
Yeah.
people who could just write you a check for $150,000 tomorrow because they're accessing a $500,000 IRA to
Yeah.
do so.
That's super cool, man.
It's a small percentage, but you know, either way, I'm really excited to present at your conference. And maybe just as we close here, just maybe you could talk to us. We're in May now, and I've seen some of your early ones where you're predicting, along with some of the other real estate investing experts that are
Yeah.
all your friends, what the markets were like or what the opportunities are in 2026. And now we're almost halfway through the year already. Geez, in
Yeah. That's
2026.
crazy,
But
man.
I mean, what are you seeing now? Like, I mean, nothing's really changed. We have this conflict. We
Yeah.
have a lot of bad news, but is for a real estate investor, like, is this still the time to do it? Like, are you still very aggressive? Are you holding pat?
Yeah, yeah. You said some things, right? There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? We've got the war going on. That's
Yeah,
uncertainty in the economy. We've got interest rates that are just kind of been flat. They're still not as low as they could be. They're not as crazy high as they were a year ago, but right,
right.
not ideal. You've got houses sitting on the market longer.
Sure.
Things feel and seem a little slower. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the real estate market, I would say, right now. And it, this is exactly what an investor asked for, right? So what we're seeing right now is buying opportunities. The deals I've done this year in 2026 have had really good spreads. Really good spreads. Like I literally just signed a contract to sell a house that I paid $81,000 for. I'm selling it as it is. We sold it on the market as a hotel for $180,000. Right. So there's tons of opportunity out there right now because right, wrong, or indifferent, the economy and the real estate market have felt uncertain for several years now. And at
Mhm.
some point, people become used to the uncertainty. Life still happens. People still need to move. People still want to move. People still need to transact. And so deals are happening and people are a little more comfortable, especially since rates have kind of been stable. So stability creates comfortability. So there's more transacting. But if you want to buy something at a discount, call it real estate, call it stocks. You don't get to buy any of that at a discount just because. You get to buy at a discount because there's some sort of pain or discomfort, right? Stocks go on sale because people perceive some sort of trouble or a problem, right?
Sure.
It may not be a real problem. It can be a perceived problem, but it can make the stock go down. Then you get in at a discount. Same thing with real estate. People perceive the market as uncomfortable, whether it is or it isn't. That's the perception. And so that creates buying opportunities. That creates an opportunity for you to come in and make offers that are lower than normal and ask for concessions, right? Like, so if you're wanting to get into real estate, this is probably one of the best times I've seen to do it because you can negotiate more. You can get more concessions. You can buy better deals right now because there's pain and uncertainty in the market. If there wasn't pain and uncertainty in the market, there'd be tons of buyers, things would be crazy expensive and it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be getting the same buying opportunities. So this is the market that you asked for as an investor. So if you're not capital, like, it's funny too, because people say, yeah, the market's uncertain. But if you ask those same people, if they bought a house today, would it be worth more or less 5 years from now? They're all going to say more. So in other words, yeah, the market's uncertain. But also, if you wait for the market to get air quotes better, you're also saying that property is going to cost more. So you'd rather pay more for it in a certain market, or would you rather pay a little less for it in an uncertain market and ride the wave up?
That's a great way of looking at it. No, I really appreciate that for sure. Thanks for sharing that. But
Yep.
either way, as we close, I mean, definitely, I'm excited, looking forward to maybe not the weather in Dallas, and
Yeah, it'll be a little warm. It'll be a little
but we're going to be inside, right? So
Yeah, we'll be all in the AC.
Okay. So the unconference isn't that we're going to be outside playing parlor
No,
games. We're actually going to be inside
Yeah.
the hotel.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's good. But either way, maybe you could tell us real quick, how do people find you? I mean, you have a big followings on YouTube and then on Instagram, but maybe you could tell us the handles real quick and we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yep. If you're interested in the conference, you can go to www.roadtotheclosingtable.com, all spelled out. And if you want to find me, the best place to do that is on Instagram. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram. Same thing on TikTok, but we mostly operate on Instagram. So roadtotheclosingtable.com or just at the Henry Washington on Instagram.
Yeah. And that's June 26, 27 in Dallas, Texas. And this is
Yes,
hands-on kind of learn, soup to nuts.
Yes.
Sort of real estate investing, and in 9 years you can go from 0 to 100 plus properties doing.
You can. You can. You can. I don't recommend that everybody do that, but it is possible.
While keeping your day job for the first half of that. Sure.
Yes, so, absolutely.
I'm not sure anyone has that sort of ability, but that says a lot about you, Henry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, look, I know that this is not even your first show that you've done today from a recording standpoint, so we probably got to let you get some lunch over there in Northwest Arkansas. But we'll get this out. Hopefully we get some people from the Rocket Dollar community. I'll be there. We'd love to see you there in Dallas. Henry promises that it will be under 108 degrees at that time. Air conditioning. So
come on out, man. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be so much
he's
fun.
Negotiated the weather already.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to seeing you there. And thank you very much for spending time, man. I know that you're super, super busy and you're probably off to go to Closing Table to go sign a couple of contracts later today.
I am closing this week. Yes, that's for sure. Yes.
So you made 30 minutes to talk to me, so I appreciate it, sir.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for being involved in this event. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with our community of people. It's means a lot to us, and I'm excited to see you I'll see you before that, but I'm excited to see you in Dallas as well.
Henry, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll let you get to lunch and closing some more deals this week.
Thank you very much, buddy.